Yeah, so the MLB is having a big issue right now. Pitchers in Major League Baseball and the accessories, we'll say, that they use when they're pitching. Now, we've seen instances where in the past, pitchers have been frowned upon for using certain sticky substances that actually allow them to spin the baseball and to throw it in ways that maybe they wouldn't be able to do quite as effectively if they were not spreading this spider tack over their balls. Now, I know how that sounds, but we're going to take a look here at an article to kind of give us the lowdown, give us an understanding of what's going on from just an outside perspective, and then we're going to look at a video that I think is pretty interesting when it comes to players themselves addressing the situation. But let's take a look here at this article from CBSSports.com. Yankees, Garrett Cole, Astros, Justin Verlander, Nats, Max Scherzer, accused of doctoring baseballs in lawsuit. Now, this is a lawsuit that's been brought against Major League Baseball, and it looks to be a specific team here. We'll get into it. Looks like maybe the Angels. But it says ex-Angels clubhouse attendant Bubba Harkins named names. Snitching. You snitch.
What? I get paid to snitch now, nigga. It's really classified. I can't even really talk about this shit, my nigga. Oh.
In the latest phase of his lawsuit against the team and MLB. So he's filed a lawsuit against the Angels, Bubba Harkins, and the article goes a little something like this. Aces Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer are among numerous well-known pitchers to have been implicated in using a grip-enhancing substance by former Angels clubhouse attendant Bubba Harkins in a lawsuit against the team and Major League Baseball that accuses them of making him a scapegoat. Harkins, who was fired last March as the league started to crack down on the use of foreign substances, filed a text message from Cole as evidence in opposition to a request to dismiss the original lawsuit submitted by Harkins' attorneys in August. So there was a request to dismiss the original lawsuit, and he filed this text message as evidence of to corroborate what he says is proof that there was some cheating going on here with these MLB pitchers. Now, look, I'm not an MLB guy. I'm not going to sit here and front like I know about the MLB like that, because I just don't. But there are certain things that transcend sports lines that go across all the way across different leagues of professional sports, and cheating is definitely one of them. So we're going to take a look here. It says Cole's message to Harkins is from January 2019, and it reads, quote, "Hey, Bubba, it's Garrett Cole. I was wondering if you could help me out with this sticky situation." Winky smile emoji. "We don't see you until May, but we have some road games in April that are in cold weather places. The stuff I had last year seizes up when it gets cold." Harkins was known around the league for providing pitchers with a grip-enhancing concoction as a courtesy that was made from a mixture of pine tar and rosin, a recipe he first learned from a longtime Angels closer Troy Percival. Though using substances, including but not limited to pine tar and suntan lotion, has been a long accepted, if not technically legal, aspect of pitching, MLB issued a memo in February 2020 disavowing the practice. Harkins' suit claims that he did not receive the memo and thus didn't receive a proper warning before his firing. Pitchers have long argued that their use of grip-enhancing substance is, in part, a safety measure, with their improved control curbing the potential for hit batsmen or otherwise erratic throws. Harkin's lawsuit claims that his dismissal has left him unemployable and notes that no other individual has been punished for similar reasons. So, as we take in the information here, absorb some data about the situation, I see my boy Ryan Kennel, RK Outpost. What's up, Brian? He's over here saying this story has been going on for a few years, but it's only recently getting publicity. And I kind of realize that. I kind of see that this is not something. I mean, we've heard about these instances where pitchers have had like a brown substance on the baseball, and it's kind of. I was confused the first time I saw it because it was making all these headlines on the sports channels like ESPN, Fox Sports. They were talking about this years back. I mean, a few years at least. And, I was confused because it really, to me, I looked at what they were accusing, and I looked at how umpires and managers and pitchers, would congregate on the mound and they would look at the ball. And sometimes, they would take the baseball and have them bring in a new one and have them pitch with that, or they just pull them off the field and they can't finish out their, they're penalized, I guess, quote unquote penalized for having, a foreign substance on the ball. Now, of course, the excuse that's being used by the pitchers in this situation is that, well, we need better control of the ball, and we use this so that we have more control over how we pitch so that we lessen the occurrence of erratic throws and potentially dangerous throws that hit, batters, guys who are batting. And it's crazy because to me, I hear that and I think to myself, well, isn't it just so convenient that you would use an additive to the ball and say that you need this to be able to pitch right? But that's like saying a receiver can put stickum on his gloves so that he can catch the ball better, so he can better control a ball in flight to keep possession of it. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but that's cheating because your gloves don't come with stickum on it. The baseball doesn't come with spider tack on it. It doesn't come with that on it. So if you can't pitch, how did you make it through your career pitching baseballs and make it to this ultimate level of professional baseball? And you mean to tell me you can't pitch without having something on the ball that allows you to pitch better? Well, yeah. Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's nonsense to me. It's a convenient excuse, of course, but it's not legitimate. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. That's like, yeah, I took steroids because if I take steroids, then I'm going to be stronger and I won't get injured as much and I can last longer on the football field. So yeah, why not? Why not? Why not give myself the best advantage possible, even if it's not a natural advantage? It's literally exposing that these guys aren't as good of pitchers as you think they are. They're good. They're better because they're cheating to be better. Now, if you're going to look at this and say, hey, it's an accepted and technically legal tradition, well, then why don't the batters have something that allows them to hit that ball further and harder and with more impact when you pitch it? That would balance the playing field for a product to be made that can actually allow for for them to get more out of their swing. When you hear about corked bats, when you hear about baseball players who have hollowed out the inner part of their bat so that they can smash balls through the rafters, nobody has a problem looking at that and saying that that's cheating. You can't do that. You're giving yourself an advantage. You're giving yourself something over your opponent that's not natural. And that, in what I'm saying, is that this is just a bunch of bullshit. But let's go even further here. Let's look at this video And credit to Baseball Caliente RD. They're the ones who posted this video on YouTube. But this is a quick interview with Yankees ace Garrett Cole, where he's asked straight up, are you using or have you ever used spider tack? Let's listen in and let's hear what they got to say.
Have you ever used spider tack while pitching?
I don't.
God damn, already. He got caught off guard with that one. He's like, yeah, think about this for a second before you answer, because whatever you say at this point, moving forward, is literally what you're going to be held to for the rest of your career in regards to whether you're a cheater or not. So tread carefully here, my friend.
I don't know. I don't know if. I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest.
God damn. You know what? I will give him this. If you are stuck and they got you cornered like that in questioning, that's really the best thing you can say. I don't know how to fucking answer that, buddy. What you want me to say? Yeah.
I mean, there are customs and practices that have been passed down from older players to younger players, from the last generation of players to this generation of players, and
I tell you what. Usually, when an athlete is put in a position like this, and this is really all credit to Garrett Cole. I mean, hey, regardless of what I think about the actual use of this substance, of the spider tack, to actually give them an advantage in the game, he is navigating this. He's navigating this fairly well right now. A lot of times you see players, they get a little bit panicky. They start stumbling over their words. They start stuttering, and they can't really figure out where they're going with this. But they do not want to say yes, because if they say yes, they're fucked. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a team lawyer standing on the other side of where that camera is, just like, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. And he's just thinking, but he's handling this. He's navigating it fair right now. Fair.
you know, I think there are some things that are certainly out of bounds in that regard, and I've stood pretty firm in terms of that, in terms of the communication between our peers and whatnot. You know, and I, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's, you know, this is important to a lot of people that love the game, and this is including the players in this room, including fans, including, you know, teams. And so if MLB wants to, you know, legislate some more stuff, that's a conversation that we can have, because ultimately we should all be pulling in the same direction on this.
Okay, so he gave a non-answer. He didn't answer it. I mean, did we expect him to answer it? I wouldn't have expected him to answer it. But at least he didn't make himself look stupid. He didn't make himself look dumb. But some things that he said that you have to listen to, and you have to understand that as a player, there is two sides to this dilemma that he's in with this question. One is, you know goddamn well, yes, you have. It's on film. You can see this stuff in the games. You can tell when you look at the ball, because the ball looks like it has mud on it. But that's something that's already known. That's something that he doesn't need to say. But if he actually verbalizes in any way that he does use any substance that is not authorized, which there really isn't any substance that you're supposed to put on the baseball, if he comes out and he says that, he is going to be a target in the court of public opinion as we watch the lawsuit that's been filed, against the Angels in the MLB. As we watch that progress, he's going to be brought up all the time. Well, this is what he said. This is what he said. And that will definitely create a distraction on his professional side. Now, on the other side of that, you have the locker room. If you come out and you actually expose willingly to the media, of all people, I mean, you're not even being forced to really answer the question. You're not under oath or nothing. But if you come out and you actually acknowledge and say, yes, I've been using this substance as a pitcher, and it's something that has been used by many other pitchers and many other players over past generations, well, now you just crossed the line in locker room etiquette, in that brotherhood that you have as a member of a team. You don't snitch on your teammates.
Snitch ass.
Nigga, I got a job. This is home now, nigga. Believe that. They finna pay your boy to snitch. Bitch, I'm in.
And yes, I know, hey, it's a double standard. Well, if he's cheating, why not say it? Well, hey, you can say it. But as soon as he says it, his reputation amongst his peers will go through the ground. It will crater out in a heartbeat. You can't come out and actually acknowledge that. And I think that's where most of his struggle, most of his pause in answering that question came from, was the fact that if I answer this wrong, then it's going to be my reputation as a player amongst my peers, amongst the pitchers in this league that are going to shun me. That's what's going to happen. That's part of the culture. That's part of the culture in team sports. There is always a line that is set in terms of individual players exposing or, basically letting the cat out of the bag, snitching on anything that's considered controversial amongst your teammates, especially if it's something which, in this situation, that practice of putting shit on their ball has been something that's been done for a while, for a long time, and it's been known by a lot of people, both in the locker room and outside the locker room, from umpires to fucking fans. We've all seen it. So there's really not, there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to change what people already know and people already perceive about the entire situation. So save yourself and save your reputation from any real damage by not really giving a good answer, not really giving an answer. Don't say yes, don't say no. I mean, hey, he did it the way that if you had to answer that question like he did just now, that's probably the best way to answer it. Baseball just has a long history of a lot of shady shit that goes on that can be considered, cheating within the game. I mean, I don't necessarily know the culture of baseball, but I think that in a team sports setting, you really do have, cultures that are set, that have been there for a while. And there's not really a written rule on it, but if you're somebody looking from the outside, it could seem like something that's an unfair advantage. So looking at this article, it says MLB is poised to begin cracking down on pitchers using doctored baseballs. Baseball's foreign substance reckoning is here. Major League Baseball, after decades of looking the other way, is poised to begin cracking down on pitchers using foreign substances after a fact-finding mission earlier in the 2021 season determined the problem is widespread enough to warrant intervention. So there's something that you got to pay attention to as well. They're only intervening in this because it's become literally the norm. It is what's happening across the board. And I mean, I would assume that every pitcher on every team likely uses some kind of foreign substance on their baseballs. I think it's safe to say that, just reading this first paragraph. Team owners voted to move forward with the crackdown last week. In the days since, several notable pitchers have shown reduced spin rates, a trait that can be enhanced with the right sticky stuff. Data. Yankees ace Garrett Cole, who was recently accused of doctoring baseballs in a lawsuit, was down about 6% across the board with his spin rates during his most recent start Thursday, when he allowed 5 runs in 5 innings against the Rays. Here are Cole's average spin rates by start this season. these are all pitches lumped together. So RPM, I mean, he was getting up and this is 2 months ago. 2 months ago, he was getting damn near 2580 RPM, rotations per minute, on his pitches. And then that shot down by mid-April to 2500. And then it creeped back up there. But you see, I think this is the point where it was actually, there was actually an action taken to prevent them from using any kind of doctored shit on their baseballs. And you see his his rotations per minute crater. They crater. So what happens? I would assume that if you can getting such a high level of rotation on your pitches at that velocity and speed allow you to actually shape your pitch in ways that you really can't do it without probably throwing out your elbow or your shoulder if you don't have extra grip that allows you to actually apply pressure in the throw and the release. So as you can see, just without having that on, he gave up 5 hits in 5 innings. So batters are able to actually catch up. So that kind of leads me to believe that it is an unfair advantage because higher rotation, higher velocity, harder to hit. That's how I think about it. Harder to hit. But it was an unwritten rule. Like I said, they were allowed to do this for so long. But, I think that with the MLB turning a blind eye, that it's their fault for first and foremost for not actually addressing it when they found out. And they allowed it to become part of the culture. So it's almost like at this point, you can't really make it something that's banned in the game. You can't do that. You've already allowed it to actually root itself in part of what playing baseball is for these professionals. It's part of the game at this point. So how do you actually go back and say, no, we're not going to do that? Now, of course they can, but it's going to affect the game. Well, what way will it affect the game? We don't know. I mean, I think if guys are able to hit balls more, then you're going to see probably an uptick in the level of excitement of baseball games in general. That's going to put more pressure on the pitchers to be more precise with their pitches. They're going to be more conservative in their pitch calling and what kind of pitches they throw. It's going to turn back into a chess match rather than an arcade shooter. These guys have been basically bulldozing through. I mean, how many times? Remember when a no-hitter was like damn near unheard of? Like no-hitters were far few and far between. Like decades. Like it took long times. Like guys would be considered an elite level pitcher. They would be propelled into an elite status simply from throwing a no-hitter. You would see the updates on like ESPN on the bottom ticker. They'd be keeping up with a guy who was close to a no-hitter. And then all of a sudden, and I remember this again because that is what makes the headline. Not that I was watching baseball games, but that's what makes the headline. I saw more and more over the years. You see just more and more no-hitters. And, it's kind of like, are guys just getting that much better? Or the batters just not as good as they used to be? Well, I think we know now that there was an X factor that actually played into that really, worked to the favor of the pitchers. And that was that they could alter their baseballs so that they can throw better pitches. So they can be, they can throw with such precision and such control that batters who largely swinging the bat, I would assume, while complicated, hasn't changed much in the last, 100 years. But their style and their ability to hit balls has not really changed. The way in which they hit balls and the tools that they take up to hit balls have all stayed the same. They get a bat, and it has to be a certain kind of bat. Can't be, can't have it altered, and you got to swing with it. While the pitcher is swinging with is pitching with an altered ball. So that clearly shows that you've been allowing pitchers to play with an advantage for years. So it's almost like, okay, too many people know about it now. Too many people are starting to complain about it. We gotta ban it, even though we know it's been going on forever. That just seems kind of weak to me. Now here's a quote here. It says, is it a coincidence that Garrett Cole's spin rate numbers went down Thursday after 4 minor leaguers got suspended for 10 games? Twins third baseman Josh Donaldson told reporters, including the Athletics' Dan Hayes, referring to MLB's recent crackdown on foreign substances in the minors. Is that possible? I don't know. Maybe. At the same time, with this situation, they've let guys do it. And I think that's a great point that's made, pretty easily right there. I mean, this is common sense. Let's be real. This is common sense, folks. This is common sense. If you're going to let them get away with throwing balls that are altered, and you're going to let them, skirt the rules or rather operate outside of the rules without actually giving them, giving more guidance as to what is actually allowed, then it's hard to come back and be surprised when you see that it's actually affecting pitches. It's actually affecting their pitches, which means it's going to change the entire perception of what is a good pitcher, because you can't be a good pitcher, or you can't be as good as your numbers have been unless you have something that gives you an edge. But as a pure pitcher that uses nothing on their ball, you can see that it is much different in terms of their success as a pitcher and in terms of their control as a pitcher. That's going to affect not only every pitcher who's in the MLB right now, but it's going to affect prospects. It's going to affect, kids who are coming from high school and college, because once this happens, and I don't know how the NCAA handles that, but I know once MLB says, okay, this is banned, then every division of baseball, every level of baseball below the MLB will also probably follow suit. So it'll be taken out of the game completely, and then you'll start seeing more in-line stats with pitchers and how well and how consistent they can pitch, because consistency level is going to come down. The velocity of their pitches are going to come down. The control of their pitches, the variety of their pitches are going to shrink, because they're not going to be able to throw some of those pitches because they can't throw them without having an extra advantage to give them that edge. And I think that, hey, that's fair. That's fair, but I think you're in a gray area because you've allowed it, as the MLB, you've allowed it to happen for so long. It's a part of the game. When this guy's talking about a generation of players before him were doing this, you're talking about 10 years. Every 10 years, you could say, is a generation of a sport, because you get a completely new flock of players that, kind of replace the veterans that are now retiring, depending on the length of their careers. But I think that this is definitely going to be something that's going to be addressed with an official rule, with an official, declaration about this. And look, if I'm the MLB, I honestly would ban any substance from being used to alter the ball that isn't provided by Major League Baseball. So if they're willing to, if they're looking at this situation and saying, hey, we don't want these guys going and getting their own stuff and putting it on the ball, why don't we create a product, or we have a company create a product that minimally gives better grip on the baseball to kind of serve as a substitute, which then we can say there is something provided if you want to have a better grip, and we provide it. And if you use anything that's not, been officially something that hasn't been approved by the MLB, then you're going to be suspended. You're going to be fined. I think that's the best way to handle it, if you're going to handle it, because you don't crush that culture that you allowed to become part of your game. And at the same time, you create another stream of revenue for the league, and you actually create a new sector of industry that will grow as part of that. You're going to have now third-party companies that are going to specifically specialize in creating things to spec based on how the MLB says this is all you can do. This is what we're going to allow, and this is what you have to build your product based on.